Hello again. Here we are back at the Residence Complete Discography. Unlucky episode 13. I'm out of breath. I just ran up the stairs. So in the last episode, we led off with what opened with one of the greatest albums of all time, in my opinion, Animal Lover. And then they went into this story album era. And here we are. And in September of 2008, they released Bunny Boy, which kind of continued the story album kind of thing. But here they kind of finally mastered the how much talking versus how much song related kind of thing, which, in the earlier ones, Voice of Midnight was mostly acting. There's a little bit of singing in there. Tweedles was a nice blend. There's songs and dialogue. And River of Crime was almost all dialogue with some acting. But yeah, here we got, if you had no idea what was going on with this whole world of releases, there's a ton of Bunny Boy shit. That's why this whole episode is for it. But, yeah, if you knew nothing about anything else and bought this album, it would still just be a really good album. You don't need to know anything or the stories. And yeah, when this came out, this was another one of those big, a big breath of fresh air. Cause like, although I, respected and thought the story albums were interesting, at the time, I didn't love any of them, and I was really over it after a few in a row. I actually like Tweedles a lot more now than I ever did since making that last episode. So yeah, when this one came out, and the second you put it on, it was just like, oh, thank God. It was just instantly with the opening of Boxes of Armageddon. But yeah, really great album. In my opinion, this is kind of where Bob, guitar playing resident, really kind of starts taking off. I don't know how to explain it. Like his guitar work was always very important and added a ton to the music, especially when he first joined, and it was very rompler and sterile sounding. We really needed that guitar and live playing to bring the music back to life. But here, I feel like he's getting more his own styles coming in. He's naturally kind of more of a shredder, but now, and he makes it work, but now it's kind of turning into this weird, spazzy Residence World version of shredding. I don't know. In revisiting this album, it was really like, oh, here's where I really start liking his guitar work. Yeah, great album. There's also a couple songs like Secret Message on here is really kind of like poppy and nice sounding. It almost sounds like it could be on like Demons Dance Alone, but since this album has a lot more upbeat ones and stuff like that, I think it works a lot better in here. To me, Demons Dance Alone was too much of all in that same level of nice and calm. This is really great. Yeah. And this one also falls into the category of, I rant about cheapo CDs from specific people that cost like over $20. You can buy one of these brand new for $6 fucking. That's a great deal. So yeah, these are still available from MVD and they're only $6. So that's why this is sealed, because I recently rebought it. But yeah, definitely check it out. Great album. And like I kept mentioning in the last episode, again, something is clearly missing, but we'll get to that when that dawned on me back in these days. So yeah, Residence Bunny Boy, September 2008.
Boxes full of all my gear, boxes full of death.
So the same day Bunny Boy came out, they started doing these little videos, like YouTube videos. So the official story about Bunny Boy is they claim when they're working on Voice of Midnight, they started getting these weird videos from their old friend Bunny. And that was the inspiration for this project. But whatever you want to believe, they start doing these videos on YouTube with the singing resident like playing their friend Bunny Boy. Whatever way you want to take it, I don't know. But the thing is they're kind of really awesome. And I think it was in the first episode I mentioned how there's two kinds of Residents fans, basically. The ones that think it's all really funny and the ones that take it seriously, and how I'm more of I definitely take it way more seriously. Here's where you can't deny it's funny, but to me it's, I don't know. It's a little wacky and stuff, but to me it's wacky in a good way. Like he really does this character great. This is kind of a perfect character for him to play. Before this, I don't know if we really had man singer resident playing specific characters. He did in like Tweedles and God in Three Persons, like on albums, but never in like a show or a video. You know, he would have different costumes on, like in 13th Anniversary. And I guess he was sort of the Mr. Skull preaching guy in Wormwood. But this is really where we start getting like singing resident characters. You might be able to hear the air sirens outside. Fear not, it's just Wednesday at noon. There's nothing happening. But yeah, and also very surprising and awesome was he's not really covering his face or anything like that. His costume is basically, he let his hair grow out. He grew a big beard. He's got big glasses on. Sometimes he has like bunny ears on and stuff, but like I think it's an awesome look for him personally. But yeah, these videos, they went on throughout the next 2 years, 2008 and 2009. They would regularly make these videos, and they're fueled by the Bunny Boy album, but also would inspire new stuff for the Bunny Boy albums. And yeah, and it was interactive. Like there was an email that you could like, send your tips to Bunny and stuff. So it was all really cool. They made something like 50 episodes. It's like well over an hour and a half. But yeah, eventually it was all put out on this DVD. Is anybody out there? November 2009, this finally came out. Someone collected them all on YouTube. You can also watch them there. It's not a sit down and watch them all at once kind of thing. I recommend taking it in and maybe like 20-minute chunks or something. But I think they're very cool. I like his antics. I like this character. Yeah, and it all gets intertwined with the rest of this stuff. Also on the Bunny Boy tour, you could buy a little dog tag thing at the merch table. That was Bunny Boy intermission music. It was only like 15 minutes long. It's never had a physical release, and it's more of that kind of like mediocre remix stuff. Just previous songs, like slightly remixed. Maybe a little better than that really bad remix CD that I mentioned in I think it was the last episode. But yeah, not great. Not essential. I totally forgot about it until I was like compiling everything for this episode. Yeah, all it really did for me is made me want to listen to the proper versions that sound a lot better. But that exists. Thought I'd mention it. And just 1 month after Bunny Boy comes out and the series starts, I think they're already on tour at that point. And then also on tour, you could buy the Postcards from Patmos CD. This is soundtrack music for the video series. So this is like really cool, dark, like atmospheric instrumental music. And yeah, it's really good. It's a full album. It's a funny package because it has 2 CD spots and a spot for a book. You're supposed to put your Bunny Boy studio album in here and the booklet for some reason, I guess, and throw away the jewel case from your Bunny Boy CD. I don't know, but weird idea. Interesting. This is a really good instrumental album. I wouldn't say it's their best, but it is very good. I remember at the time there was some talk about how they busted out their old analog synths for this. Maybe it says something in the liner notes. I don't know. But I don't know if that's baloney. Bobuck liked to sort of make fun of trends, and I don't know if people got that. I certainly got that when I started talking to him about vinyl releases and really picked up on his sarcasm about vinyl. He was not a vinyl guy, and he thought it was silly. A lot of very sarcastic emails from him. But I think that's what's going on here. This does not sound like analog synthesizers. Maybe there's a little bit sprinkled in there, if at all. But I mean, this is more like I hear Rompler sounds. I hear like string samples, and, you know, there's like ambient sounds like dripping faucets and stuff like that. And not really analog synth kind of stuff. Then again, you can take analog synths and run them through a ton of digital effects and get very different kind of sounds. And maybe some of that's in here. But yeah, people are like, oh yeah, they busted out their old ARP Odyssey from the 70s. There's an Odyssey right there. I don't hear any Odyssey sounds. I don't know. Maybe if I just listened to this twice again and nothing jumped out, but so I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. Either way, it's a good instrumental album. Postcards from Patmos, check it out. Is a live album released by me. This is very dark. You're not going to be able to see it because it's very dark artwork, but it's really cool artwork. But yeah, it's very dark on purpose. But anyways, so yeah, Bunny Boy Live. It did become a tour, obviously. But yeah, Bunny Boy was a tour. Okay, so I guess here's where I got to talk a bunch. So I got to say, when I went to go see Bunny Boy, I went to the Chicago show, and I remember I was really excited. I hadn't seen him. I haven't had a chance to see him since Demons Dance Alone 6 years earlier. Because besides that, the only shows they did were the Australian ones in 2005. Like they really like took a break from touring, and I was really, especially since Animal Lover came out, I was like, why aren't they touring? So yeah, super excited when Bunny Boy came out and they went on tour, went to Chicago, and yeah, it started. I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I kept waiting for female lead singer to come out. And by like the third song, it really dawned on me that wasn't going to happen. And that's when I realized there was no more female lead singer. And that's what had been missing through all this stuff I talked about in the last episode up until now. But I didn't realize it back then because, well, back then I didn't know that there was like female lead singer and multi-instrumentalist / female vocalist also in the band. Plus sometimes they have guests. Back then I still was pretty oblivious, and in my mind there was Peggy Honeydew from like 71 who was in Vileness Fats and on like some super early pre-Residence stuff. There was Lori Amat. I knew her because she says her own name in God in Three Persons, and she was on like Gingerbread Man, Freak Show, all that stuff. And then there was lead singer, female resident. I don't know. Maybe I even thought that was Lori Amat. I don't know how much I knew, but yeah, anyways. So since there's still like little bits of female vocals in the stuff, I kind of assumed that was her, but it's really like looking back, it's clearly not. And yeah, so female lead singer is gone. She did not perform with them after the Way We Were shows in Australia. And that is a huge blow to the band, in my opinion. And it's never really bounced back from that. Unless you saw them with the two lead singers, man lead singer, female lead singer, you really missed out. And watching videos isn't going to really do it justice, I don't think. But yeah, really awesome. She's no longer involved. So I'm sitting there watching the Bunny Boy show thinking like, maybe she's one of the people in the background and eventually she's going to come out because they got to do the Bunny Boy stuff first. Then they'll probably do some old stuff with her. But yeah, it didn't happen. And as that dawned on me, the show became more of a bummer. I was having a hard time just enjoying it for what it was because I was really bummed she wasn't there. Also, another couple more things about the show that I noticed at the time was the volume was really low, like painfully low. And I get it, they're not a rock band, but like it was so quiet. You could just hear everyone in the audience every time they shuffled in their seats, everyone clearing their throat or like whispering to their friend. Like you could hear all that. The volume, I would equate the volume of the show to like a boombox on the stage. Like it was way too quiet. And that's lame. You can't really pull that off. No matter what kind of music it is in a live setting, it should be fucking loud. I don't care if it's ambient or rock or electronic music or whatever, country, even country, like everything. Like get that volume up. So that was a bummer. But it was a cool show. And that's where like that's where really the talking parts came in. They kept the dialogue pieces to a minimum on the studio album. There's only a couple tracks where there's dialogue. But then the show would have tons of dialogue. And they would show video clips from the video series, and then they do songs. So, like, if you weren't keeping up, it all made sense. Anyway, so that's some some story about that. Then, this was never released as a show until more recent years. 2021, I released this. So when I started talking to them about me doing a show, I really wanted to put this one out because Bunny Boy isn't on vinyl. You can only get it on CD. Postcards from Patmos music is awesome. That's not on vinyl. Yeah. And I knew they weren't going to really let me do Bunny Boy because that's something that Cherry Red will eventually do. Looking forward to it, especially if they do as good of a job as they did on Demons Dance Alone. Get on that, Cherry Red. I want a copy of that. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I picked this over some other tours that hadn't been released, because there was no vinyl Bunny Boy anything. And I was like, well, then I'm going to beat them to the studio album and I'll do the live album. So they sent me, I don't know, probably a dozen live recordings. And people ask why I picked this one. And here's how my brain works. It's very, there's a lot of things to factor in. There's sound quality of the recording, but there's also the performance. You know, some days you perform better than other days, but there's also on top of that, audience sound. Sometimes, like a recording is good, and you're like, oh, this show sounds a little bit better than the other one. But then in between songs, it sounds like there's three people in the audience. It's probably just because of like whatever room mics they have or where the room mic was, or if they even have room mics. Maybe it's a soundboard recording. And if it sounds like there's two people clapping between songs, that makes for a rough live album. So yeah, you got to factor all this stuff in, which I did like a crazy person. I went full Rain Man on this project. And yeah, so that's why I picked this show, which isn't perfect. There's some like noises. There's a big feedback part like early on that I remember. We got rid of a lot of it. We definitely reduced its impact in mastering with Carl Saff and stuff. But yeah, not perfect, but I think it's a good show. Also, I had to. So in order to make this work as a live album, since there's so much talking and the videos, I went through and made a timeline. I think I still have them, like pieces of paper where I map out everything. Like, oh, talking is like between this time. And then like with like little notes like, this is kind of funny, but it's kind of like pointless to the show, not essential. Or like if a talking part and then a video part that they played was basically the same exact thing, that would be redundant and I would keep either one or the other. So yeah, I wanted it to be, if you knew nothing about it, you could put this album on, enjoy it as a show, like the music isn't broken up too much, but also understand the plot. And I think I did a damn good job. Oh, thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Me? Very good. But yeah, tons of chopping this thing up and piecing it together. Like, I think there's like 20 minutes of just like little video or talking parts that probably got removed. So this fits on a double LP. The whole show is actually there and the whole story is still there. You're welcome. But yeah, so these are, there's a pink and black version, and there's also a You're not going to be able to see this, but it's like a blue marble, like it's marble thing. I only made 250 each of these. I actually still have some of these. Most of these videos, I'm like, I'm not trying to sell you this. These have been gone forever. These I actually have. So if you want this, I still have a few copies. It was also released as a double CD. They're long gone. People also ask about the art. This is one of the albums I did with Casey Howard, also known as Stott Howard. Really awesome artist. He does poster art. He does all sorts of stuff. He's worked with all sorts of big time bands. He was also, I think I met him because he was involved with the documentary, and I somehow met him through that. I don't even remember. But yeah, I ended up doing several albums with him. Really sweet guy, awesome art. But yeah, this art is really dark. I think it was made intentionally this dark. And I'll say this is kind of me and Lacey's fault, because when you see this on a screen, it still like looks really cool. Now looking back, I mean, it looks great. It really does. But I feel like if we tweaked it a little bit, it would have been a little bit nicer, just a tiny bit. But yeah, at the time we're just like, no, it's supposed to be dark. It looks great. And you have the light from the screen when you're like digitally, looking over the stuff and working on the layout. So it does seem a little brighter. But yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal. It still looks really cool. I just, now looking back, it's one of the only things I would change if I went back, is I would make this art just a little brighter so it popped a little bit more. Then again, maybe it's awesome just like this. I don't know. But yeah, Bunny Boy Live. Yeah, this was recorded in December of 2008, but not released until 2021.
I've got a story to tell. I have got a story to tell. Search of bunnies as well. If I see a rabbit, I grab it affectionately. I love the rabbit, and I love... Right here, it says, "We are doomed 666 at gmail.com. Photos of a coming family showed us sad and I'm not crazy. He was the one who came undone. And I'm not crazy. He was the one who thought his fun would never go away. Now he got the big C, cancer. Harvey got lung cancer. And then, about the time he was getting over that, his wife turned lesbian and ran away with a school teacher. Boxes full of Armageddon, boxes full of death. Every now and then I think I feel my brother Harvey. I went to the residence and I said, I can't go. I said, Harvey's in Arkansas. I can't go on tour. I said, why don't you get Billy Joel instead? But I'm going to say the one was ending, and the only one that knew was missing except for
So in November 2009, they released a CD called Arkansas, which was just like a limited edition, I think like 1,000 copies. And that was like outtakes from the Bunny Boy album. And there are some of my favorite Bunny Boy songs are on that. I don't know why they got cut from the studio album. Maybe they just didn't flow right. That's very important with a track listing. But yeah, Circe, great song with like acoustic guitar, which you don't really hear too much on a Residence track. My Brother's Skin, really awesome one. I mean, listen to the title, you know that one's going to be good. But yeah, very good CD. And then in January 2010, there was a download only album called Ozan, which was all this music that was intended to be for a Bunny Boy 2 album, because the story was never finished. So, spoiler, if you, all the videos, the whole story, it's never really wrapped up, which is fine. I'd rather have no ending than a bad ending or predictable ending sometimes. So, whatever. Yeah, it was never finished. And then, so kind of at where we're left off with the story is Bunny realizes his brother that he's looking for is not in Greece, which is what he thought, which is why he was on tour with the Residents. There's some funny stuff in the video series. Check it out. But he now thinks his missing brother is in Arkansas. So that's why the one CD is called Arkansas, I guess. And yeah, and so the music in Ozan is like, it's a really interesting mix of, Residents, electronic music, but with like, all of a sudden it'll turn into like fiddles, kind of, I don't know what kind of music it technically is. Like, I could call it bluegrass, but I'm sure some of my bluegrass fans will tell me that no, it isn't, and tell me the fucking difference between all these subgenres of fucking fiddle music. I don't know genres, so fuck you. I'm going to call it bluegrass. Bluegrassy Arkansas stuff mixed in with the electronic music. But yeah, that album was never finished, so it's just released as this download only Ozan. Then at some point they combined Ozan and Arkansas to create Ozark. It was just both of those albums combined with 5 additional Bunny Boy tracks, unreleased tracks added to it. That equals Ozark. And that was like a crappy CDR. And then eventually that did get a vinyl release from me. And once again, it has very cool Stott Howard, Casey Howard artwork on here. It's like a eyeball bursting out of a rabbit head. Really cool stuff in here. Really great art. But yeah, this one also I put out in 2021. Again, 250 copies each. There's this crazy multicolored swamp double OP, and there is a pink and peppermint swirl. These also have a few copies left, just a few. Seriously, like maybe one box sitting around. Yeah. And I would say this track listing is way better. It just works way better than the Arkansas track listing or the Ozan one. And, the tracks are more intertwined. Like Cersei, I think was like hidden at like the end of the Arkansas CD, but like here it's like, yeah, stick that in the front. That's one of the best songs. So, yeah, it's the second song on the vinyl version, which is done right. Really good. I think this is overlooked. I think I didn't really like the Ozan stuff when I first heard it, because again, it was just the instrumental unfinished stuff. So just listening to those tracks isn't that great. But if you shuffle them up with the Arkansas Bunny Boy studio outtakes and stuff like that, so you got like singing resident, it just makes it all flow better, and it makes all of it seem better. You gotta, you gotta move around. If you have too much of one fucking thing, it gets to be a little boring. So yeah, that is the world of the Bunny Boy. Besides that, there was a comic book. There's also this book of the Bunny Boy emails, which are the actual emails that they got from the video series. I have not read much of this. There are some funny things in it, but I'm an idiot and can't read. Yeah. It was a huge project. It was awesome. I think in all, there's more bunny stuff than mole stuff. So, but like people talk about the mole trilogy, like this big giant epic thing. But yeah, I think there's more bunny stuff. It was awesome. I would also like to point out that there's another big change in the live show. So it's funny how brains work. So when I remember the Bunny show and remember it being quiet and there being no female lead singer there, I remember it as being the super stripped down, like 3-person residence show that it would become later on with the Randy, Chuck, and Bob trilogy. But going back and watching this stuff, I was really surprised it isn't. It is a full 4 people playing music plus singing resident as Bunny. But it's definitely not the band. It's not the band, that classic awesome band of Wormwood, Icky Flicks, Demons Dance Alone, even though Demons Dance Alone was a little different as well. But yeah, it's something is off. And I remember when I first decided to put this out, and I was talking to a resident, and they're like, "Oh, what show are you putting out?" Because some of you may not know this, but band members don't know what's going on. Labels do. Labels do wheelings and dealings with the other labels, and then band members are like, "What's happening? What got released? How I didn't know about that. I don't even have a copy." That's the reality of Earth. But yeah, so I'm talking to a resident, and they asked what show I was putting out next, and I said Bunny Boy, and their response was something like, "Ugh." And I was like, "Oh, what? I like it." And I think the response was, "That is not our tightest era," or something like that. And going back and listening to it, it's definitely sloppier than Wormwood, Icky Flicks, Demons, or even The Way They Were. The Way They Were, I don't think there's a live percussionist, but there is in Bunny Boy. And I didn't remember that. And I think that's the issue. I think the percussion is a little sloppy. So yeah, I think it is a fully live band, but they're not as tight. I will say that it is a good show. I mean, I put it out. I do like it. I think it's important enough to have on vinyl. But there is that. I'd like to point that out. So at this point, no female lead singer resident, no really awesome live percussionist, multi-instrumentalist resident. Yeah, real quick, there was this rando compilation, El Año del Muerta. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced or not. I have no idea. It's weird. It came out in 2009. If you look it up online, it's like a compilation of rarities. That's why I bought this. It's still sealed. I think it was like $2 on the MVD site. They had this they blew out a bunch of Clang stuff for like $2. That's like the only reason I bought a lot of that stuff. And it opens with an unreleased track, I Can't Get No Spot, which is believed to be an outtake from Our Finest Flowers. But after that, I mean, rare, not really. I mean, Sleepwalker, Dead Men. I mean, it's a lot of like super common tracks you can get anywhere. Like a couple, I guess, are kind of rare, but I think this was originally just a download, but yeah, eventually, again, it became the CD. Not until 2021. And you don't need that one. Not essential, but yeah, that's the world of Bunny Boy. That was only 2 years of stuff, but it took over everything. Instead of them bouncing between different types of projects, it was all Bunnies. They're going to do a sequel. They clearly didn't. Probably because they're sick of it, or maybe some members were and some weren't. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but they abandoned it. And instead, they decided to work on another big project called Talking Light that was supposed to be a studio album, and it wasn't. So it's another lost album, kind of like the Man album. And that's where we'll take it from next time. Bye.